Margaret Mwachanya, who exited and left the commission not fully constituted with only 3 commissioners. Of course, 36 applicants will be facing the select panel that will be led by Elizabeth Muli and also be assisted by Gitonga, James Achoka as the commission or the select panel vice chair. Over 600 Kenyans had applied for the positions, and of course 4 positions and over 600 applicants. We are expecting something quite extraordinary before the general polls, and as soon as it is constituted, of course it has had a lot of challenges and also a lot of court cases in court. Remember, even the Court of Appeal, IEBC, was being represented by the former AG. Of course, a lot has dented the IEBC, if you ask me, and more so it's after the nullification of the 2017 general polls, after the Supreme Court declared them null and void, and we had to go back to the ballot box. Of course, IEBC also has come out strongly to defend itself from a lot of allegations, and we will be looking at some of those, including the selection and what is expected of those 36 candidates. And joining me in stage or here on set is Gitonga Mukunji, who is a governance expert and also a political strategist. Karibu sana Gitonga.
Asante sana.
And perhaps to give us a feel, what do we expect today at the IEBC selection panel begins its work today?
Well, thank you so much for having me, first and foremost. Also, I appreciate so much the fact that we have a new KBC with a new look, and I'm very happy to be part of this. Talking of the IEBC and the process that is starting today,
yes,
I would first say I wish all the candidates luck. And it's a process that I feel it's a little bit behind time, because as we all know, elections is a process, electoral process. And for now, we should have done many things with a complete IEBC, which includes boundary review and all. But, well, here is where we are, and we are hoping to get commissioners, the 4 commissioners who will come and complete the commission as it's supposed to be and as stipulated in the Constitution. We also expect the new team, if I may call it that, to be a team that will have one direction. We don't want to see the problems we have seen before in the past, where commissioners have decided to just go their own ways and make their own conclusions and bring their own update. We have seen the same happening in 2017. Where even some resigned before election was fully complete.
Yes. And
where we are right now, we are hoping to get the best candidates. Now, IEBC is an institution that has a lot of interests. Many people would like to get agreement, control it.
Exactly, and also Kenyans we are watching. And
Kenyans are watching.
Yes.
We need to have that, we need to get that public trust for IEBC. And it's a do-or-die process, because election year, as we all know in Kenya and where we have been in the past, it's an election year that we can go into war. We can have tribal tribes fighting against each other. So I'm hoping the panel to be very keen on issues of interest to the public, and among them is actually the integrity part,
yes,
of the commissioners, and also the issue of having a commission that is zero I mean, it is bipartisan,
okay,
to all parties.
Okay,
yes.
At least we have a feel of what to expect, and of course Kenyans are actually waiting anxiously to see how these interviews are conducted. But before we go on with this live discussion, as I said earlier, today is the 7th, that is Saba Saba, and we are commemorating 31 years since the Kenya Saba Saba protest. You do remember, led by, among others, Kinajindo Matiba and others. Saba Saba is renowned as the day that those protests took place and even people lost their lives. Well, they are commemorating the day at Chester House right here in the county of Nairobi. Let's first of all listen in. As we wait for that live feed, it will be remembered that Kenyans from all walks of life on this day, 1990, is really were demanding for their basic right, and the clamor to change the constitution, which culminated looking at 1990 and when we promulgated our constitution. Actually, it's been a long journey. We do remember a lot of Kenyans had to sacrifice a lot, including their lives for that purpose. And today also is also an instrumental day regarding the Saba Saba. You do remember we're talking about IEBC, which will culminate into elections, MCAs, even the president himself. And you do remember there is a petition that was taken to court or filed in court seeking to have MCAs and MPs requirement to have degrees actually quashed. And of course there is also a bill pending at the Senate by Kipchumba Murkomen, and of course today is when that case is being heard. As we wait for that live feed, 600 applicants, 36 shortlisted candidates. It shows a lot of people want this job, and it's a very it's a hot seat job, if you ask me.
It's a job. I hope whoever applies has what it takes. And I mean, it should be an open process, because I'm also curious on how they arrived on 36 candidates out of 600. But we are hoping to at least be able to finalize the process within no time. If we look at the work of the commissioners, I mean, the commissioners will determine whether this country will go will go down the drains in 2022, or it will stand strong. And the commissioner's integrity will determine the integrity of the election of 2022. It's actually hand in hand. And if we look at it, we don't want where we have cases coming up of preparedness of IEBC in the election. As I've said, and you remember in 2017, the first election was nullified, not because the outcome was disputed, but because of the process. And I have said before that we are already late when it comes to the process. So it is not a wonder to get 2022 cases coming up and telling us the process was not right. The boundary reviews were not done. So we want commissioners that will be able to look at law, the legal framework, ensure they understand it, and they are able to actually integrate it into the manner that there are no cases that will come up later. We want commissioners that will ensure they at least give us qualified candidates. And this is where actually Kenyans should be very keen that qualifications to vie in Kenya are supposed to be followed to the latter.
Okay, before then, let me just interject. Let's first of all cross over to the Saba Saba commemoration. And of course, when we come back, we look at the confidence that Kenyans have, and of course, the dented image of IEBC from the general elections 2013 or challenge 2017. We also have BBI has also been challenged in court. But first of all, let's listen in.
Holds for the women doing small businesses, for all women who are in this country. Because as we speak of change and revolution, we cannot take away the gender equation, and we cannot take away women from this equation, because the women folk make 50%, if not more, of the population. And we cannot have change, and we cannot have a revolution if there is no liberation of all the women. And as the women, we ask for liberation, we ask for reawakening, we ask for change. Kitu kubwa sana ambacho kinatuathiri kama wanawake ni taasubi ya kiume ambayo tunaita patriarchy, lakini pia sana sana issue ya class ambapo tuko na grassroots women who have absolutely nothing, and we have other people who have accumulated so much wealth and they live in so much abundance. So I stand here today to represent the women folk of this country and to ask for a liberation, that we will march until all women are free. And to live, we resist. To transform, we march. And we ask for economic empowerment of all women and employment opportunities to these women, so that we are not slaves to marriage, we are not slaves to our men, but that we can move forth with our dreams as women as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sefusani. Unajua mwanamume akianza kukubandika majina, I know that's patriarchy, so you shall resist. I'd like to invite my comrade, Vice Chair of the Communist Party, Buka Ngesa, to speak, and then after that we're happy to take your questions. Thank you very much, Comrade Buka. Asante.
Forward with the resistance, forward.
Forward.
Forward with the resistance, forward.
Forward.
I will have a few remarks as the Vice Chairperson of the Communist Party of Kenya, because today is a historic moment, and it is not a historic moment for the oppressor, but it is an historic moment for the oppressed. Today, as we join hands with our brothers and sisters and sister organization from what we call the left, what Dictator Moi banned in 1980s. Today we can stand up as Communist Party of Kenya, and we call ourselves the left political movement because of the sacrifices that people made before us. And for that reason, we want to remind the oppressors today, the dictatorship of the status quo, that the people here are willing.
Some of the members of the civil society under the hashtag Saba Saba March for Our Lives, and they're talking about it's a moment for the oppressed, not the oppressors, and they have actually endeavored, and they have said that they will march from Nairobi CBD to Parliament to hand them a petition seeking or demanding to have the 2010 Constitution fully implemented. Of course, we also have clamor for that, for the change of the Constitution, but they will be doing that to petition Parliament to fully implement the 2010 Constitution. Perhaps, Gitonga, you can chip in on that. They're talking about we want the 2010 Constitution fully implemented from when it was promulgated and when we started using it. Till now, over 22 attempts to amend it, including the BBI, the Punguza Mizigo, Okoa. There have been several. Now they're talking about, leave alone whatever you want to change. What we want is the 2010 Constitution to be fully implemented. And we both agree, and Kenyans agree that, of course, we have some loose nets and loose nuts we need to tighten. We need to let some things go. We need to bring in some things. Kindly.
The civil society, as you've said, they are very right. I mean, we need to implement this constitution. The world has termed it as the most progressive constitution. And I feel that, and why you can see all the attempts to actually amend it failing, is because it's a very strong constitution. We still haven't gotten the 2/3 gender that is stipulated in the Constitution. There are other things that have not been able to get to perfection yet. And we are still thinking about amending it. I think I agree with the civil society. We need to implement the Constitution 2010. We need to follow it to the latter. We need to empower the institutions that are stipulated in that Constitution. And this country will be a different country if we do that. The regime that we have had, the Jubilee regime, has come with the idea of changing the Constitution the very last hour of it, the last year. I would call it the last leg. And from my side of view, I think the BBI has failed. And if there is anything that is going to happen in terms of changing or going to a referendum, it can only happen during the election itself of 2022. So some proposals that have been made in the change of the Constitution are very good. I mean, we have issues with the wage bill and the cost on the Mwananchi Wanjiko in terms of whatever offices have been put in place. We have issues of ensuring that some parts, especially parts that bring Kenya together, are fully more pronounced. But I feel if the Constitution is implemented and we have a regime that wants to empower that Constitution, then we are going to have a very strong country. So I fully agree with them. If I wasn't here, I would have joined them.
Really? Indeed, of course, 31 years down the line, we still remember this day. And of course, we have even the Saba Saba grounds just for that, because of course the Constitution, the clamor for change of Constitution began back way back back in the days, and we are proud to have one of the most progressive Constitution, as you have just said. And perhaps back to the IEBC, we will be getting back to the civil societies and their march and the clamor and what will happen in Parliament after they give their petition seeking to have the 2010 Constitution fully implemented, leave alone the clamor for change, but they want the full implementation of the Constitution, perhaps to enjoy the full fruits of the Constitution. Back to the interviews, of course, which will be carried out live, so that all Kenyans can see and have some confidence. And talking about confidence, how do we instill confidence in the exercise and IEBC? If we look at the electoral process since way back, we had the Electoral Commission of Kenya, ECK. We had the Interim Independent Electoral Commission, IEC. Now we have ECK. ECK. So we have had issues since way back, and they can only be compounded by now looking at it now that we need more commissioners, just slightly over a year to general polls. And it was really dented by the 2017 nullification of the general polls. How do we instill confidence in the IEBC or the electoral process in Kenya?
Well, that's a very good question. And I'm one of the most observant when it comes to this issue of elections, because when it happened that there was post-election violence in Kenya, I was among the people that was affected, because we had to wait. We were in the university, we were told to go home, and we waited for quite a while before everything came back to normalcy. When it comes to the public trust of IEBC, and I feel the current commission, although not fully constituted, finds itself in quite a dilemma. As I've said, from my point of view, there are people who want to control the IEBC. And while I was observing by-elections that were being carried out around, you find that in Juja, a certain governor decided to stop the process and went and tried to throw out everybody, telling them this process, we are not trusting it, because he realized his candidate was not going to win. And what happened is the chairman himself had to intervene, Chebukati,
Yes.
And went there, and at the end of the day, everybody knew that election was free and fair. If you look at a place like Matungu and the rest, we saw commissioners being harassed and being thrown around by politicians who believe they are bigger than everybody else. But at the same time, we have an IEBC that requires funding and fair funding so that they can prepare for these things. And we have had issues with that. Right now, the budget that they have been given is not enough even to prepare enough for the election of 2022. And at the same time, there was a lot of questions when, and if you've been listening, when it comes to verification of voters register, there was a question that was asked in the Court of Appeal that they were not able to answer very well. So there's some things they're supposed to do to get that public trust, and there's a need for the executive to support it, the commission fully, so that also the Kenyans can see there's work being done for preparations. And
yes,
before you interrupt me,
yes,
I think that is where the problem is. If the executive can hold, can decide to manipulate the IEBC, then we'll have a problem. If the IEBC fails the integrity tests, like what I've given an example of Juja, then we also have a problem. So it's a very big, it's a very delicate balance, and there's a need for the commission to be out there in public, give statements on the preparedness. Let them tell us what they're going through in case there's a problem when it comes to financing. But let them not do things that will end up in court and make this country suffer problems when it comes to elections of 2022.
Indeed, it's a good thing that you've brought that up. And my question was, how then do you believe that IEBC or the electoral process has full confidence and a full goodwill from the government? Why do I ask this? From the days of Zacchaeus Chesoni,
yes,
to Kivuitu, and now to Chebukati,
yeah,
they literally were weathering the storm. Looking at the boundaries, they have been challenged. Looking at the elections, they have been challenged in 2013, in 2017, leave alone the MCAs and MPs and the governors challenged. Look at the BBI, it has been challenged. Look at the operation, the quorum of IBC. Do you believe it has enough goodwill from the government? The electoral process.
I have seen some good results when it comes to the by-elections from IEBC, and I have not seen any by-election being challenged in court. So it means that they know what they're supposed to do. It's also interesting that even politicians who are they are very vicious when it comes to criticizing IEBC, when it comes to these by-elections, they keep quiet and they accept the outcomes. Some margins are very, very small, just like we have had in many elections. But I keenly understand that the election, the general election, is not like the by-elections. But if you look at what they have done in the by-elections, it shows that there is a will and there is goodwill to do a credible election and deliver to Kenyans. But the government, which should be held accountable through the civil service, opposition leaders, and anyone who is interested in politics of this country, we should ensure that the government, we pin down the government to fully finance, fully cooperate, and ensure that we have an IEBC that is fully functional. And it starts with the commissioners. Whatever is going on in the in the KICC today, from today, is a thing that will attract a lot of public viewing. Just like we had with the judges. And I would say that let them show us that they have gotten the right candidates, and there is no recommendations, which I would say chini ya maji, to ensure that some people are put there to serve other people's interests. So that's where it starts. And it is not too late. but it's still not too early. It is too late, I would say, actually, but it's not like fully gone. So we can still have an IEBC that is fully functional and has gained public trust by the time we get to the general election of 2022.
Indeed. And let's look at the powers of IEBC. Of course, there are a lot of people who have talked about IEBC, including the chairman himself, should be given more mandate.
Yes.
Looking at handling elections, then we talk about, of course, prosecuting those involved in election malpractices.
Thank you.
They be given more teeth. Would you support a much stronger and endowed IEBC than the one we have now? Because we are constituting a full commission now.
Well, that's a very good question, because I have just mentioned the issue that happened in Juja with everybody watching.
Yes.
And I think for the part of public trust, what should have happened is that person should have held into account. Everybody saw, it was clear in everybody's eyes that somebody was trying to sabotage the election process. And I think that's where it starts. We feel that there is a delink between the Interior Ministry that is supposed to offer a lot of cooperation to IEBC with the IEBC itself. There is more that is required. And I want to say that the election of 2022 is a very delicate election. People have actually been saying all these manner of things, and some have said we might even end up in a very problematic year afterwards. So it is very important that people should hold this part of preparation very seriously. And I would put it to President. I mean, the President has always said that you want to leave a united Kenya. You want to leave a Kenya that when elections are going on, people vote and wait while they are eating chapati. That has been his saying. It is him to show us he means what he says by ensuring that the IEBC is fully given cooperation. And whatever happens with the BBI, let us see preparation of 2022 elections in top gear. We might lose a lot in terms of an economy if we don't do that.
Indeed, of course, the economy is always polarized when we are headed to the polls.
Absolutely.
And looking at what you've just talked about, the Juja one, and we also had one at Matungu. I remember there were concerns, and of course they were raised in Juja, that the official result should be the one announced by by the station, not the commission. We want it actually, whatever has been announced at the polling station is what runs in the commission. Would you support the same?
I fully agree, because we have had misleading, I mean, you have seen it in Kenya.
Yes, you even have media station. We also do our tallying as well.
Yes.
So they want the final result to be announced at the polling station, not to wait actually for the national tallying center.
Yes, yes.
So something that has brought a lot of
good part of what we made in terms of the new reforms that came in 2013. And I see another issue coming up of systems failing, which I think this is a time to look at those things. We have a very big problem, because some of these things, they have a very thin line when it comes to government control, and the 3G network, the 4G network. Those are things that can actually mess an election, and you're unable to prove who won and who lost. If we are able to give election results at the polling station levels,
yes,
then I will tell you that it will be so hard for anybody to steal an election at the tallying center. It will be so hard, because at the polling station level, unless there is unless there is a serious coordination inside IEBC to steal elections, which would be a serious problem by itself, then if at the polling station level is where the results are trickling in, then we will have a very easy election in 2022. And I fully support that. Fully support it.
Yes. Another issue that always creep up when we are having elections is infrastructure.
Yes.
Of course, when we come back after this short break, we can tackle that.
Yeah.
Remember, servers zilifunguliwa, you know, the internet issue, the tablets not working. Do we need more to be done? And of course, perhaps on legislation, we even have lost lives. You do remember we had Musando who was murdered, and of course, all things pointed to matters election. So do we need to change that so that we may not encounter the same problems of servers, of internet? We will be getting back into that. I'm hosting Gitonga Mukunji, but we are looking at the IEBC. We will be right back after this short commercial break. My name is Ben Troy Njue. You're watching KBC.